Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening again, Commissioners. We'll be calling several professional witnesses, but I will be calling the applicant, Mr. Bob Garashi from NJCDC, as my first witness. Just by way of brief opening, I'll indicate to you that, of course, the board is familiar with NJCDC's operations and facilities within the city of Paterson as a nonprofit entity for many years. We have been before the board very recently, in fact, of course, and this area within the Mill Street sector and the surrounding area is really the primary, or one of the primary focuses of NJDC's ability to provide needed services within the city of Paterson.
Yes. Before you begin, I'm sorry, Mr.
Chairwoman.
Yes, I was just about to say, please let the record reflect that Commissioner Fisher is now in attendance.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, please proceed, Mr. Maricola.
Not a problem. Again, so we will looking to develop a very small parcel here on Middle Street. Again, within close proximity to many of the services already provided by my clients, that be school, housing, work programs, all the varied services that I know the board is familiar with. So this is an attempt to provide needed housing on a vacant lot, which at one time did have a multi-family structure on it. And we will be detailing the architectural as well as the planning, traffic, and engineering elements of the project as we proceed. At this time, I'll call Mr. Bob Garashi as my first witness.
Yes, please, go ahead. Is your microphone?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm
Okay, yes, yeah.
Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
My name is Bob Garashi, and my address is 217 Elberon Avenue in Paterson.
Thank you, Mr. Garashi. Bob, tell us your position with NJCDC, if you would.
My position is CEO.
Thank you very much. As such, you're fully familiar with the proposal before the board this evening?
Yes.
Okay, and as such, NJCDC acquired this parcel fairly recently, I believe?
Yeah, I think about a year ago.
Okay, and the intent from the beginning was to provide some needed housing for the area?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, and just if you would, give us any other background you wish to give us regarding this particular site. I know we've had some discussions about the ability of NJCDC's surrounding area to serve perhaps as providing some off-site parking as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you'll permit me, I'll just give a brief introduction with a little context about this project. So good evening, Commissioners. We appreciate once again the opportunity to appear before you with another project that we think not only will provide much needed affordable housing to the residents of the city, but also will go a long way towards ameliorating blight that currently exists where we propose to build this structure. I think, as most of you know, NJCDC is a 26-year-old nonprofit community development organization serving more than 4,000 children and families each day through a variety of programs in the areas of education and youth development, affordable housing, and neighborhood revitalization. The project that we present tonight furthers our important goal of providing additional affordable housing options for families that live in a neighborhood that we serve. And the proposed project, which as you heard is located at 105 Mill Street, involves the construction of a small multi-family building upon a vacant, underutilized, and blighted lot. When complete, the project will consist of 3 two-bedroom rental units. Each apartment will have central air and heat, in-unit washer and dryer, and range stove and refrigerator, and access to a shared backyard. This is similar, for those of you who were on the board at the time may recall. In 2019, we received approval from this board for a very similar project at 157 Wayne Avenue. I listened to Mr. Deutsch's report, and we had received a courtesy copy of it, and that's caused us to give a little bit of thought to the issue that always seems to be the bane of all our existence, and that is parking. And so from the outset, what I'd like you to know is that we've given this, as I said, a lot of thought, and what we've decided to put forward is providing at least one parking spot for each of the 3 apartments, and that would include one parking space there at the site of the property, and then 2 additional parking spots just several hundred feet away at the large parking lot that we have at 75 Spruce Street. And our professionals, I think at the appropriate time, can speak more specifically to this, but I thought it might be useful to address that head-on as an issue at the outset. And so, Mr. Mariconda, as well as members of the board, that would conclude my introductory testimony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garashi. Madam Chair and Commissioners, Mr. Garashi is available for any questions you may have as the witness on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If there's anyone in the public that has any questions regarding Mr. Garashi's testimony this evening, please call in at 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. And again, it's strictly based on Mr. Garashi's testimony. Okay, if you have any questions for him, please call in now. I'll allow 2 minutes for the call-ins and 3 minutes for your questions. Thank you.
It has been 1 minute. We have no callers. If you'd like to wait a little more, to you, Chairwoman Northrup, we have no one.
Okay, then I'm going to proceed and I'm going to open it up to the commissioners. Okay, if any commissioner has any question of Mr. Garashi?
Mr. Commissioner.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Mr. Udine, was that you?
Yes.
Okay, please ask your question.
All right, thank you, Chairwoman. Good evening, Mr. Garachi. First of all, I had to thank NGCDC family for all the services you are providing to the city of Paterson, and you guys deserve kudos, respect. So the question is, what would be the main purpose of the building foundation that you're going to build on the Mill Street?
Yeah, so it's to provide these 3 two-bedroom units of affordable housing. One of the things that we've noted in the neighborhood is, and I think anybody who is familiar with the neighborhood, particularly the Dublin section, understands that there's just a great deal of substandard housing. And so by building new housing here for families, affordable housing for families, we hope that we'll start a trend of providing housing that's not only affordable, but also that's high quality.
Thank you, Mr. Garachi. Yes, I was thinking in the beginning maybe it is part of the affordable housing project, and thank you for clarifying. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I have a question.
Commissioner Brooks? Yes.
You said that these are gonna be affordable, units, so I assume that your corporation is, rent these out to, Section 8, or how do you come up with your pricing? Who qualifies for your places?
We have applied, but we haven't yet been awarded funding from the city of Paterson, from the city council under the home program, which you may or may not be familiar with. Federal dollars from HUD that flow to the city of Paterson that help organizations like ours to build affordable housing. And that home program has certain requirements that are imposed upon those who receive those dollars to ensure that the property is affordable. In some cases, units available for individuals as low as, I think, 30% of average median income, up to 80%. And it also requires affordability controls to ensure that that property stays affordable for a long time, measured in decades. So, so that's how we would be meeting the requirements of providing affordable housing.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner, please, yes.
Hi, Mr. Garachi, how are you?
Hi, Commissioner, how are you?
I'm good. Regarding the parking, you said now you're gonna offer 3 parking spaces and 2 additional parking spaces at a nearby lot. Will the tenants have to pay the ones that are utilizing the lot?
I haven't given that any thought, to be honest with you. Right now, we have, that is largely used by the charter school that we founded, and the building that we built there for or renovated, I should say, for the charter school. My preference would be to say no, and to try and include that in the range.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, no other commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry, who's calling me?
this is Councilman Velez from the 5th Ward of the City of Paterson, representing the City Council in the town board.
Yeah, I thought they weren't you absent, I'm sorry, I thought you were absent.
No, I was not absent. The problem is that I was muted, and I was trying to take off myself out of mute.
Oh, okay, all right, go ahead. Then go ahead, ask Mr. Garachi your question, please.
Thank you, Bob Garachi. Welcome once again to planning board meeting.
Excuse me, Councilman Velez, by way of our attorney, can someone note that he has been present, please, for the record?
Yes. Councilman Velez has indicated that he's been present the whole time. His mic has been muted, which is why he didn't answer the roll call. So he should be marked as present for the duration. Not that he's currently present, he's been present since the application began. Is that correct, Councilman?
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raka, and this is duly noted. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, for your intervention on this. Once again, Mr. Bob Garachi, thank you for considering the Board of Planning on the City of Paterson. 121 Mill Street, as the address in question, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, it's number 105. It's currently a vacant lot on Mill Street.
Correct. I got off one number. That property had been abandoned that lot being abandoned for many years, right?
I believe so. There was a fire there a number of years back that destroyed the previous structure, but I couldn't tell you what year, Councilman.
Yeah, Mr. Bob Garachi, this project is going to mainly serve the unserved individuals in Paterson that low-income people that need fair housing in the City of Paterson.
Yeah, that's correct. It's consistent with our mission. To date, we built over 150 units, all of affordable housing, in many cases supportive housing for people with special needs. As this board knows, we were just here 2 weeks ago to gain your nod for a 56-unit building that we're going to be constructing in partnership with St. Joseph's Hospital. So, yeah, this would be fully consistent with our mission to extend a hand to people in need.
Thank you, no more question. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, all right. So we're gonna move on, Mr. Maricondo?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Chair. We'll be calling Horton Architects as our next witness.
Okay.
Ben?
I'm here.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your full name for the record.
Benjamin Horton, Horten. I'm the owner and principal of Ben Horton Architecture and Design, located at 312 State Route 10, Randolph, New Jersey.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Horton. Just for the record.
Mr. Maricondo, excuse me, can he please post his renderings, please? Thank you.
I'm just gonna go through credentials, then I will do that. And would you state for the record your professional background and licensing?
Sure. My credentials are, I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at Carnegie Mellon University, and I received my Master of Architecture degree at Yale University. I've been working in the profession for over 27 years. I have my firm since, I started my firm in 2000. I'm licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, and numerous other states throughout the United States. And I've testified before this board and many other boards in the U.S.
We accept him. Thank you, we accept him as an expert witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you may post your plan, if you would.
Okay.
Are you able to post your plan? Okay, good.
You should be able to see it?
We are starting the first section of it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, Ben, if you would, you had an opportunity to hear the earlier testimony as well as Mr. Deutsch's report.
Yes, I have.
Okay, would you give us an overview of your architectural plans? I guess starting with the rendering that's before the board at this time.
Yeah, I think Mr. George explained the plans and the details of the plans pretty well. So
Absolutely.
I'd like you to first refer you to the rendering. This is a street view that we pulled off of Google Earth, and then they located the new building here, located between this area that I'm pointing to. That's the empty lot, and we rendered in to scale the actual building design. As you can see, the intent of the building design is to kind of correspond with the similar sort of shape and style of the buildings that you see there, but obviously in a nicer, more detailed fashion. What we're proposing to do is a 3-story building, as Mr. Bush explained, and I'm going to zoom in on the entryway a little bit more. There we go. So as you can see, it's a 3-story building, ground floor, entry door, and the right side of the view here. It's going to have a little entry canopy. And we tried to add some architectural details that makes the building look a little bit nicer. We did see that there was a building that was brick next door. As you can see, it's a lot of the buildings are older, a little bit not well maintained. We do want to bring together buildings that are a little better quality and have units that are more modern and providing the extra amenities that you typically don't find in this neighborhood. Even though it's low income, it was important to NJCDC to make them high quality, as Mr. Garachi had pointed out. So I think that kind of explains the look of the building, and the floor plan. I can walk you through the floor plan real quick here. You can. This is A201, which is the first floor plan, and all the floors, as Mr. Deutsch explained, is very similar. You enter on the left side of the floor plan here, which is the side that faces the street, and when you enter, there's going to be a stairway and a hallway. We're making the first floor unit as required by code a handicap accessible unit. And then the upper floors will be accessed through the stairs as you go up the ramp or up the hallway. And actually, there's another set of stairs next to the ramp here going up to the second floor. Each of the units, you can see you come into a open kitchen, living room, dining room area. It has a laundry closet, and as you go down the hallway towards the rear of the building, there's 2 bedrooms. The master bedroom is a little bit larger with its own walk-in, sort of ensuite bathroom and a small walk-in closet. And then there's the additional bedroom with a closet, and then there's a hallway bathroom that could be shared by guests as well as the second bedroom. And as you go to the upper floors, as Mr. Deutsch explained, it's laid out identical on the second floor. You came up the stairs here, and then to continue up to the third floor, you would go around the hallway and up the stairs again. This unit is almost identical to the first floor unit. And then as you go up the third floor, again, it's very similar. The only difference is when you get to the third floor, you have that extra floor space available where the hallway and the stairs used to be. So that unit is just a little bit larger. But layout is identical to the lower 2 floors. So that is the floor plan of the building. And the roof plan, I know Mr. Deutsch explained it's a flat roof. It's actually a pitch roof. It does pitch from the front to the back with gutters along the back. So it does drain. It doesn't have the traditional gable roof that you see in other houses, but as you can tell on that street, a lot of the houses are built with this style of roof, which is, it would be considered a flat roof, but it actually has a slope and it drains to a gutter. The front elevation, you saw that I think a little bit more clearly in the rendering. These are more technical drawings showing the dimensions. And as you can see, it's 3 stories and approximately 32 feet high. And the ground, the side elevation, which is the right side of the building, there's a door you saw on the floor plan that you can come out of the stairwell and you could walk towards the rear yard. You can see the ground line here that we drew in. That's going to correspond to the site plan drawing. When you're standing at the sidewalk, the backyard is slightly higher, so there's a little bit of a slope that you would have to walk up in order to get to the backyard. As you can see, it's a brick front, and then we turned the brick a little bit on the corners, and then from that point on, where the building is less visible, we made it into the siding material. The left side is similarly designed. Again, you can see the ground contour line. And then at the rear of the building, you can see it's a similar sort of siding elevation here. So with that, I think that concludes my testimony. If there's any questions, I'm glad to answer those.
Ben, just one follow-up if I could. The square footage of all these units comply with the zoning, the building and zoning code as to size requirements?
They do.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, subject to any questions of the staff and planners.
Okay, so I will open the questions up to the public. If anyone in the public has any questions of Mr. Horton, please call at 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. And these are questions for Mr. Horton's testimony only at this time. So I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Commissioners and staff, we have no callers at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I'll open up questions to our commissioners. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions? And Mr. Horton?
I have a question, Commissioner Brooks.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I may.
Commissioner Brooks.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to make sure the commissioners were aware, we do have site plan engineering testimony as well as traffic and planning testimony. So Mr. Horton's testimony was limited in that regard.
Yes, okay, that's fine. Okay, so, yes, continue, Commissioner Brooks.
Well, so, Mr. Mariconda, I shouldn't ask about the rear yard, what the rear yard consists of, and if the rear yard is what you're using as open space. I shouldn't ask him that. I should ask the guy that's doing the site plan.
Ben, I would think we would defer that to Langen Engineering, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think
Did you agree?
a little bit better.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions, Commissioner Brooks?
No.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, hearing or seeing none, okay, we will, continue. Mr. Mariconda.
Thank you again. Langen Engineering will be our next witness.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Matthew Welch, W-E-L-C-H. I'm a senior project manager with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, located at 300 Kimball Drive in Parsippany.
For the record, Matt, I know you've appeared before this board before. Your professional background and license.
I received my Bachelor of Science in the field of Civil Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey and several other states, having worked on land development projects for over 15 years, and I've appeared before over 50 land use boards, including this one.
Okay, and we accept him as an expert witness, thank you.
Thank you very much. Matt, could you give us an overview of your site plan? Bearing in mind the board has heard Mr. Deutsch's report, as well as our applicant's testimony and Mr. Horton's testimony, and I'm sure your site plan testimony will elaborate on that as well.
Absolutely. So I am sharing my screen right now. This is an aerial exhibit we prepared of the site and the surrounding area, taken within the past year. The site is block 4710, lot 34, also known as 105 Mill Street. It's located approximately 300 feet north of Grand Street. Just for an orientation on this aerial, north is to the left of the page. The site is undersized, it's a non-conforming lot of only approximately 2,900 square feet and only 25 feet wide, which is undersized per the zoning regulations, but it is, as you can kind of tell from the aerial, generally consistent with the size of the surrounding residential properties. You do have residential properties to the north and south, and further north and south that are also are existing up on the right-of-way, and then of course you have Mill Street to the west of the site, which is primarily used for on-street parking. You also have a fairly wide 12-foot sidewalk along the site frontage, and then one unique thing that Ben alluded to in this design is we do have a 6 to 7 foot grade rise as you go from the street to the rear of the property. So that factored in some of the decisions that were made for the project. I'm now referring to, this is sheet CS 101. It's from our March 27th plan set, depicting both the site grading and utility plan. As was testified to, this is a 3-story residential building. We set it so the front canopy is approximately 1.4 feet from the right-of-way, which was the average setback. As you can kind of see on the site plan, the property to the north, lot 35, is about 2.7 feet from the right-of-way. Lot 33 is right on the right-of-way, so we wanted to set it, roughly halfway in between. Also, you'll notice both those two residential buildings are shifted so that they have a 0 side yard setbacks to the north and an alley to the south. So we kept this building consistent with that look and feel of the surrounding buildings. We have a 0 lot line setback to the north and a 4-foot setback to the south, which provides a sidewalk to access the rear of the building. That 0-foot setback to the side yard is a variance, and our planner will discuss that in more detail. In the rear of the site, there was a question regarding the open space. We do have a concrete patio, approximately 490 square feet, and then just some open grass area in the rear of about 960 feet. So by having that building up on the right of way, you do have a nice open space area in the rear of the site for residents to enjoy. One other thing, as we're kind of talking about the rear of the site, this came with Mr. Deutsch's letter. In terms of trash pickup, we do have an area on the side of the building that would likely be used to store trash before it's taken to the street for delivery. It could be contained in that landscaped area. One last note about the rear, you'll note on our drainage plan, we do have an infiltration basin in the rear that's designed to hold the 2-year storm event. There is no parking proposed on this site, consistent with the uses. However, and I'm going to refer to another aerial exhibit, there is 2 spaces that the applicant controls and has chosen to allocate at 75 Spruce Street, which is less than a quarter mile from the site. So there's 2 spaces there, and call it 1 space in street parking in front of the site today. So that's 3 parking spaces. None are on site, but this is an affordable housing project. We are in a downtown area that's well served by mass transit. As I mentioned, none of the other residential uses, or almost none of the other residential uses, have on-street parking, and I think the fact that NJCDC is able to provide 2 parking spaces less than a quarter mile away is certainly a benefit and a nice add-on to this project that otherwise would not have any designated parking sites. So there are a couple of variances. I'll just note them for the record, and our planner will go into them in more detail. We do have a bulk variance for lot area, lot width, front yard, side yard, combined side yard, and building coverage, which is 40% is permitted and 41% is proposed, and we meet the FAR of 1.2. So in summary, this is a site that we've designed consistent with a lot of the other residential buildings along Mill Street, and it will allow this development of a blighted site with a high quality, affordable housing project. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, Matt, if I may just follow up a little bit. You indicated the trash refuse area, is it separated with garbage and recycling facility separation?
Yeah, we don't have a designated area, but it would likely be kept in that what we're calling the proposed landscaped area on the side of the building. So we'd likely could put a concrete pad there that could hold the receptacles to be taken out to the street.
And does your site plan depict lighting or cameras on the site, or is that something to be provided down the road?
Yeah, no lighting or cameras are currently proposed as part of this site plan.
All right, now that is something I know the board would like to hear. How we would propose to light the site and provide that kind of security element to the site. Would you like to defer to anyone else on that, or is it something that you could give the board your general concept of how that could be accomplished?
I mean, you're going to have typical, and Ben might be able to shed some light, sorry, no pun intended, on this, but it would be your typical, you typically would have lights at the building entrances to provide safe ingress and egress to the site.
And I would suppose Mr. Garashi could confirm regarding the presence of security cameras if we were to recall him?
Yeah, I think you would be appropriate to answer that question.
Sure. Okay, that would conclude your testimony at this time, then we're available for any staff, any questions by the board or public.
Yes, I'm gonna open it up to the public at this point, okay? If anyone has any questions, excuse me, hold on, if anyone has any questions of Mr. Welch from the public, please call in at 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID is 711-680-0071. These are questions for Mr. Welch only based on his testimony. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I'm waiting for the public to call in. Who's that? Who's calling me? Commissioner
Madam
Velez?
Chair, yes, Councilor Velez, I just, want to.
Excuse
Wait,
me,
no.
everyone, excuse me, Chairwoman and Northrop and Commissioners, we have no callers at this time.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to remind Commissioner Velez that I have to open it up to the public first, and then I'll bring it to the commissioners. So now, since there's no callers calling in, I will ask the commissioners, any commissioner have any question of Mr. Welsh at this time? Commissioner Velez, do you have a question?
Yes, the problem is, Madam Clerk, I don't know where is coming the defensive. I just want to let you know that, I had to log in through another phone, just in case you see another phone.
Oh.
Because I got disconnected, that's why it was only good.
Okay.
But yeah,
It's not happening
yeah.
here, sir, and with all apologies, Councilman, if you have any difficulties, please call me, text me, I will connect you once again, and all my apologies, sir.
Okay, so I got a question. Is it
Yes,
possible, with all the respect of the board, please? The engineer spoke about the parking inside, not inside. Why not inside? I'm curious in that point only.
Yeah, no, we reviewed it at the onset to see if we could provide parking on site, because we know it's a challenging area because none of the residents have on-site parking. And essentially what you would have to do is you'd have to push the site back from the right-of-way, which would be very uncharacteristic of any of the, most of the adjacent residences, and you would lose that kind of nice open space that we have in the rear. And basically, it's only a 25-foot wide, so you could squeeze two cars in side by side, but then you would also lose the curb cut. So you lose a street parking space that's essentially a shared parking between residential uses, and you pick up, two on site. What we're proposing to do is have two dedicated parking stalls at an off-site facility less than a quarter mile away. So we're able to maintain the on-street parking, we're able to maintain that nice open area feature in the rear of the site, and we're still able to provide two parking stalls within walking distance of the site. So I think it's a nice balance of being able to park this site without kind of losing the look and feel of the adjacent residents in the neighborhood.
Correct. I got another question, two questions, and one question will follow the answer. This question is regarding how many variances are you looking for the parking? How many the parking variances? How much are you requesting? So I have the document in my hand. That's why.
Yeah, the requirement is 2.1 per unit. So we have 3 units, so technically 6 are required.
Okay.
So that's the variant, and 6 are required.
And you have compromised yourself that you're going to supply that to the tenants off-site, correct?
Great, yeah, there'll be 2 spaces provided at 75 Spruce Street.
Correct. And if it's also, I know this question probably was not for you, but probably you could answer. This is going to be stipulated in any lease contract, whoever tenant is coming in, that this site is off-site parking and they are required to park obligated in that site, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll defer to the applicant, but that's my understanding. But I'll defer to the applicant.
Garashi did refer indirectly to the fact that he would hope that off-site parking would be incorporated into the rent. So that's been NJCDC's practice, to work with tenants on site if there are any sites that require off-site parking. They've developed a good working relationship with tenants in that regard over the years.
Correct. I just want to let you know that this is a comment on, because the city is moving forward to put citywide parking permit for residents only. So I just want to make sure that the residents come in and know that they are mandated to park in the designated space that this applicant is looking for. No more questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other commissioners' questions of Mr. Welsh?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Ceballos.
Yes, good evening. Mr. Walsh, I don't know if you're the professional can answer the question. Anything about fire code in this new building?
I'll defer the architect for any building code related items.
Okay,
We can call
thank
Mr. Horton, we can call Mr. Horton if you wish, Commissioner.
you. Council, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, please, go ahead, bring them.
Mr. Horton.
This is Ben Horton, architect. Regarding the fire protection, the building is going to be provided with a sprinkler system. A lot of the buildings in the neighborhood are most likely not sprinkled. This building will be sprinkled.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? Any questions?
Commissioner Cleaves,
Yes, Commissioner Cleaves?
I see in the photo, there is it looks like a fence there to the right of the building, no, but if I'm looking at the right of the building, so there will be a closed fence there, so, people off the street won't be able to just walk down the, side of the building?
Correct, it'll be just a, small gate similar to most of the residents on the street.
Okay.
Commissioner, any other commissioners? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Maricondo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Before I call our next witness in line, I'll just point out along the lines of Commissioner Sabalos' question and the answer of Mr. Welch that if this application were to be approved, this would be a three-family dwelling, which would fall within the purview of the Department of Community Affairs, which, as the commissioners know, creates a double check on code requirements, especially with regard to fire code and all other building safety issues. So that's another factor to consider at this time. At this point, we'd like to call our next witness from Langen Engineering.
Who would that be?
Be our traffic expert, I believe.
No, sorry, it's Greg Woodruff, the planner. I believe I'm up next.
I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Hold on, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Sure, Gregory Woodruff with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, also at the same address as Mr. Welch, 300 Kimball Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey.
Mr. Woodruff, just for the record, I know you've appeared here before. A brief recitation of your professional background.
Certainly. So I am a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, as well as nationally with the American Institute of Certified Planners. I am an associate at Langen Engineering, have prepared and been part of many land development applications similar to this. I have appeared before many boards throughout the state of New Jersey as an expert in planning, including this board.
Yes, we accept him as an expert witness, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. Mr. Woodruff, you had an opportunity to hear Mr. Deutsch's report as well as all our testimony this evening.
Yes, sir.
And in accordance with your preparation for your testimony tonight, you had an opportunity to review the site, analyze the site from a planning perspective.
Yes.
And if you would give us the benefit of that analysis.
Certainly. So thank you again. As with any planning evaluation like this, started with a review of the relevant planning documents, as well as the submission documents for the project. As the submission has proceeded, reviewed the relevant comment letters that we've gotten back to hopefully provide the planning justification for the variances that the project is requesting. So just by way of a little bit of background, many aspects of the project have already been discussed, but just by way of background, the project is a permitted use in the zone. It's an affordable housing project, and I think overall, before we get into the specific planning justifications, is a project that in general is in keeping with the neighborhood and hopefully will meet, which we'll discuss further later, many purposes, positive purposes for the overall neighborhood. So relative to the bulk variances that are being sought, obviously as the board is well aware, the bulk variances can be justified under one of two criteria, the first of which being typically referred to as the C1 variance criteria, whereby there's some unique physical attribute of the lot that of the property that leads to that nonconformance, or what is typically referred to as the C2 criteria, which is typically a balancing or a weighting test of the benefits and any detriments or perceived detriments, and obviously the benefits would need to outweigh the detriments. So that's just the general terminology that I'll be using as I talk about the variances that are being requested, and just by way of restating them, the variances that we are requesting relate to the side yard, both the width and the combined width, the minimum front yard setback, the lot coverage, and the parking requirement. Also, just to note, I think Mr. Welch mentioned it in his description of the property, but there are 2 existing nonconformities relative to lot area and lot width, where the lot is undersized, and those are just existing conditions that are nonconforming currently, and will continue just based on the fact that the lot is the lot as it is currently laid out. So relative to the proposed conditions and the variances that are created, I'd like to start with the yard issues. The side yard, both the minimum width and the combined minimum width, as was mentioned, the lot is narrower than if required. And so it really requires, as you heard description in Mr. Welch's testimony, of putting the building on the northern lot boundary. As was stated, care was taken to observe the pattern of the neighborhood in general and conform to that pattern. So in my opinion, from a planning perspective, this variance can be justified really under both criteria. The lot is undersized, so just physically the lot is narrower than you might otherwise normally have, and it just makes it more complicated to fit a functional building on a undersized lot. But in addition, the benefit of that 0 lot line being in keeping with the pattern of the neighborhood, I think, is a benefit visually to the overall appearance and character of the neighborhood. Similarly, relative to the front yard setback, whereby a minimum of 10 feet is identified as required, and we are proposing, less than that. But as you heard Mr. Welch describe, again, care was taken in placing the building such that the setback that is proposed was specifically chosen to be in keeping with the buildings immediately adjacent and overall on the block, so that the overall streetscape appearance is maintained. So in my opinion, this variance would be justified under a C2 variance criteria, whereby the benefit of that overall streetscape appearance and consistency would outweigh any detriment or perceived detriment. In addition, I think, as Mr. Welch discussed, the other benefit that keeping the building or the structure further forward provides is a very usable and generous rear yard space, which I think will be a significant benefit to the 3 families that are living within the building. Next, I'd like to talk about the lot coverage exceedance. In this case, 40% lot coverage is permitted. The project is proposing 41% coverage. In my opinion, from a planning perspective, that's an extremely de minimis exceedance. That 1% is a very small amount. But again, you do have a lot that is undersized to begin with. So, providing the amount of coverage that's proposed sort of falls out of that undersized lot. And again, is a de minimis amount to begin with. Lastly, for the parking, as we heard in pretty good detail relative to what is being proposed, there is a parking variance that's being requested. However, the applicant is making arrangements to have parking spaces provided very nearby the site. There would be a normal street space associated with this building out in front. And as you heard Mr. Welch discuss, even if there were able to be some parking provided on site, it likely wouldn't be able to be the number that is required anyway, and it would create other difficulties relative to the curb cut that would be required for a driveway apron, and it would really result in a dramatically different and likely much less aesthetically pleasing and much less functional site layout for the building, and how far it would have to be pushed back. So relative to some of the purposes of the MLUL, that are advanced, in my opinion, relative to purpose A, to promote health, safety, and general welfare, the variances obviously would be supporting an affordable housing development, which does obviously support the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. And relative to the negative criteria, as the board is aware, the application is required to prove that there is no substantial detriment to the public good and no substantial detriment to the intent and purpose of the zoning plan and the zoning ordinance. And in this case, in my opinion, from a planning perspective, this affordable housing project is in keeping with the public good and would certainly not present a substantial detriment to that good or a substantial detriment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. It's a permitted use. The character of the building is in keeping with the surrounding area, and aesthetically is a very high quality building, certainly for any building, let alone an affordable, 100% affordable housing project. So in my opinion, the planning variance justification criteria have been met and the variances can be issued. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Woodruff. That would conclude our testimony.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the public first. If anyone has any questions of Mr. Woodruff, please call 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. Again, questions for Mr. Woodruff only at this time. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-in, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
We have no callers at this time.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Woodruff?
This is Commissioner Santana. I have one question.
Yes, Commissioner Santana, please go ahead.
About the front yard. The minimum requirement is 20 and you guys have 3. But I can see on the image that is posted right now that almost all the building in that area also, have a minimum, I guess, front yard. Or I'm mistaken. I just want you to emphasize a little bit about the front yard, if it's possible.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for the question. You're definitely right. And I believe the minimum required is 10. But either way, as you're talking about, for point of emphasis, we did take care, the design team took care to place the building such that it was consistent with the buildings, not only immediately adjacent, but sort of further up and down the block. Here you see on the plan, as we're bringing it up, the average distance setback between the 2 buildings immediately to the north and immediately to the south is basically the dimension that we chose as the setback distance for this building. So your statement is 100% right. We intentionally, the design team intentionally placed the building to be consistent with the buildings in the area. Again, not only immediately adjacent, but sort of up and down the block as well. When you look at the larger block as a whole, and that was very much intentional. You can see here on the aerial, most of the buildings are sort of right up on that lot line.
I'm sorry, just to verify, the minimum is 20 or is 10?
It is 10 is our understanding. If you refer to Mr. Deutsch's zoning chart, he indicates prevailing average, not less than 10.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? I have a quick question. Is that your last witness?
One more witness from Langen regarding traffic.
Okay, then we'll hear him, and then I have a question, Mr. Garashi. Okay, so, go ahead and bring in.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Ceballos, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You have a question?
Yes, one quick question. So we went over the variances needed, which is total of 5. but also open space, the applicant provided additional 500 square feet because the minimum is 750 and I proposed 1250.
That is correct. That is correct. During the course of our testimony, we tried to emphasize the fact that despite the fact that this is a typically undersized lot on Mill Street, this proposal provides a great deal of quality open space and what you would call passive recreational space for the tenants in the rear of the property. We think that's a very important element, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing no others?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Velez?
Thank you. Madam Chair, I don't know if there's a problem. Somebody's trying to put me on mute and put me back and forth, but I think there's a technical problem. Can I ask a question to the gentleman that was last speaking?
To who? Whose statement? I didn't hear you.
To the last one is speaking about the property, setback and front or whatever.
That was the planner. Want to speak with Mr. Woodruff, the planner?
Yes, correct. He's the one.
Okay. Ask your question to Mr. Woodruff.
Mr. Woodruff, is it fair to say or ask if we, in other words, and not we, the planner, in this case you, are trying to grandfather what it was there before with a new look, a new aspect on the building?
I'm going to restate your question just so I make sure I understand your question. Are you asking me, is it fair to say that the design attempts to grandfather the old building with a new design? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Can I ask Mr. Baraka to also assist you in this answer?
Well, I'll handle it from the applicant's perspective first, if you don't mind, Madam Secretary.
Go ahead, sir.
Grandfathering is a term that applies to an existing structure that is non-conforming based on current municipal land use law. So we're not trying to emulate a prior existing building. In fact, we're trying to do a substantial upgrade. The only reason we pointed out that there was a multifamily building on this site prior was to point out the consistency of our application as it pertains to the nature of our proposal fitting squarely within the R4 multifamily residential zone. So, most respectfully, I don't think the term grandfathering really applies, but I understand the concept that the councilman was referring to, so there is some relevance to that idea.
I mean,
yeah.
So I was just saying, just so we're clear, it doesn't legally grandfather in, as Mr. Maricon indicated. You're just saying that was the use that was in place in the past, and it's consistent with that use, but there is not a grandfather argument with regards to this.
We agree.
Sorry, I used the word grandfather. I used it like a technology Puerto Rican sound, trying to make sure that it's almost the same thing, but in a 2020 construction, architectural, beautiful thing in the area that will fit in the area because previous in the back is almost the same, but not with the type of construction we have now, correct?
If you'll permit me, I think what the councilman is asking is, are we simply trying to replicate the look of what was previously there that's characteristic of the neighborhood? And Councilman, if I understand that correct, the answer is an emphatic yes.
Correct. Thank you, Bobby. I guess you understand my wording. Thank you. That's what was my question. Yeah, it looks the same. I look good. Actually beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, Mr. Maricondo, please call the traffic expert.
I apologize, Madam Chair, I misspoke. That is the conclusion of our testimony. The engineering site plan and planning testimony fully covered all issues related to the parking variances on site.
Okay.
To conclude our testimony, however, I want to recall Mr. Garashi, I know he was back on briefly. Bob, if you would, I just wanted you to touch upon the security concept with cameras and lighting. I know you have experience handling buildings in this immediate area. How have you handled them before, and how do you feel about this building?
If anything, I've been accused of going overboard, both with security cameras and lighting, and we've done at all our buildings. In addition to the site lighting, we've contracted time and time again with PSE&G for exterior security lighting. So adequate lighting is very important to us, and this building will be no different.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. That was my question, about the, about the security cameras, but I have one other small question before we proceed. It was mentioned that you would be willing to put in, some concrete pads on the side of the building for the trash, so that we can put the trash removal there? Is that?
Yeah, and then what we typically do is we will have sort of one of the tenants who will take it out to the curb, and we will give like a stipend of $50 a month or something.
Right.
And that's how we typically handle it.
Okay, wonderful. Then, Mr. Maricondo, I appreciate your comments, thank you. Mr. Maricondo, would you like to summarize?
Thank you again. I'll do that very briefly, Madam Chair. I think our testimony before you this evening speaks very clearly to the positive nature of this project. This is a site, it's a vacant site that calls for being infilled, which is obviously the goal of the zoning ordinance in general and the master plan. And as you can see from the rendering, this will establish a new quality housing development in the area, which should spur other development, as our witnesses spoke to as well. And it's an opportunity to provide affordable housing, which is obviously what NJCDC is all about, at least part of what they're all about, among their many other services and functions that they provide to the residents of the city of Paterson. And the convenience and practicality of having the off-site parking at the NJCDC lot on Spruce Street is a positive. We think this site will be very well served by this new housing on this site. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will ask if any commissioner would like to make a motion on this application.
Commissioner Modine.
Yes, Commissioner Udine.
It's on the application of New Jersey Community Development Corporation, 32 Spruce Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 07501. Property address 105 Mill Street, block 4710, lot 34. I move that the board attorney prepare a resolution granting site plan approval, subject to city engineer approval and soil approval, to be considered at the board's earliest opportunity.
Thank you. Wait, I'm sorry, I hear background noise, so I'm gonna ask everybody to shut their microphones off if you're not talking right this moment. Who seconded it? I couldn't hear.
Commissioner Cleaves.
Commissioner Cleaves, second it. Okay, roll call, Madam Secretary. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Savalos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cleaves,
Yes.
Commissioner Santana, Commissioner Udine,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Velez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fisher,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Northrop.
Yes.
9 affirmative votes. This application has been granted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you and congratulations. And at this time, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. Everybody back here at 8:01. Thank you.
The Chairwoman Northrop, just be advised that Commissioner Issa has joined us at this second meeting.
Okay, so let the record reflect that Commissioner Issa is here for the second meeting, and we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, is everyone back? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
this is Fisher. We might want to do a roll call when we come back. Just to
Yeah,
make sure.
we're gonna have to do a roll call because I don't see everybody back, and in fact, I'm trying to get a hold of Madam Secretary, so.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, you there? I guess not.
Jan, this is Ryan from IT. The secretary, he's not back yet.
Alright, just let her know we're ready when she is, okay?
Understood, and I'll let her know about the roll call.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner? Chairwoman Northrop, I am here.
Okay, can you please take a roll call, make sure everybody's back in their seats?
As far as I know, everyone is present. We just have to include, Issa on the record. No one has left the meeting as far as I know.
I just wanna make sure that they only took the 5 minutes and they're back, that's what I'm asking for.
Okay, let me check the board, please, thank you.
I'm here, Chairwoman. This is Liberty.
Okay, great, I'll have the record reflect that Issa's in attendance.
This is not an official roll call, this is a roll call just to confirm that the commissioners are back on the record.
Right.
Commissioners, Commissioner Fisher,
Present.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Savalos,
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves,
I'm present.
Commissioner Santana,
Present.
Commissioner Udine,
Present.
Commissioner Cook,
Present.
Councilman Velez, Vice Chairman Fisher,
Present.
and Chairwoman Northrop.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, so, let the record reflect that Commissioner Issa is now in attendance. Alright, so the next application to be taken up this evening is an application that was postponed from Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. The applicant is 510 Oakland LLC and JTM Investment Group, 250 Madison Avenue, Paterson, New Jersey. The property is 90-92 Coral Street, Block 68, Lot 26. Mr. Maricondo, are you?
However, good evening, Mr. Guzman Jr. I am not only one of the applicants, but I'm an attorney as well, and the attorney on this application.
Okay, so Mr. Maricondo is not here, and you're Mr. Guzman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you're representing the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so the site is vacant of structures and the applicant proposes to construct a new 3-story residential building with a total of 23 units.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, that is not the current description.
Well, what is the current description? Because that's what I have.
Okay. May I read it into the record?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
The site is vacant of structures and the applicant proposes, the site is vacant of structures and the applicant proposes to construct a new 3-story residential building with a total of 23 units.
Right.
The first floor proposes a lobby with a mail and package room, 2 stairwells, and previously proposed 3 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. 24 off-street parking spaces were previously proposed. 13 of the parking spaces were beneath the building's projection line, and the remaining 11 were within the uncovered parking area. The second and third floors each previously proposed 4 one-bedroom units and 5 two-bedroom units on each floor. On July 22nd, 2020, a 5-page drawing of revised plans prepared by Evans Architects with a revision date of July 14th, 2020, and on August 1st, 2020, a 4-page traffic and parking assessment report prepared by Stonefield Engineering were received. The proposed 3-story building has been revised to reflect decreased square footage, and the parking lot has been increased from the previous 24 spaces to the current 29 spaces. The previous location of the refuse area confronting along Coral Street has been removed and relocated to the building's interior. A variance for rear yard setback has been eliminated, as the original plan indicated a rear yard setback of 11.24 feet, whereas 20 feet was required. The revised plans indicate a rear yard setback of 22.07 feet. The applicant has also reduced the number of proposed 2-bedroom dwelling units from the previous 14 units to 4 bedroom units, and increased the number of 1-bedroom units, which was previously 9 units, to propose.
Hold it. Wait, stop, Mr. Dredge. Somehow or another, your microphone, it is going in and out, so it doesn't sound, it's going in and out, it's fading in and out. Madam Secretary, did you hear it?
I actually only heard a little bit of it. That was out of sorts, but I will deal with it right now. Thank you very much, Commissioners, for your patience. 30 seconds, please.
Just, yeah.
Okay, guys. Proceed, Mr. Deutsch.
Okay, thank you.
The reduction in the number of 2-bedroom residential units and the increase in the number of 1-bedroom units indicates that a parking variance is no longer requested. The 19 one-bedroom units each require 1 parking space per dwelling unit, and the 4 2-bedroom units each require 1.5 parking spaces each per dwelling unit, for a total of 6 parking spaces, and a grand total of 24 required off-street parking spaces. As the applicant has now indicated, 29 parking spaces off-street, including 8 that are in tandem arrangement, a parking variance is no longer being requested. The previous first floor unit has been revised to indicate an interior refuse and recycling room that was previously proposed on Coral Street. A fitness room is also now proposed on the first floor, as well as a tenant amenity area room of 665 square feet. A storage room for tenants has also been added. The number of residential units on the first floor has also been reduced from the previous proposal of 3 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units, for a total of 5 first-floor units, to the revised total of 3 one-bedroom units. The revised plans indicate a total of 23 units, including 19 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units.
Meg, your mic is on.
I apologize.
The previous plan also proposed 23 units, but the previous unit count was 11 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units. Parcel's area is 17,952 square feet. Parcel's area of 7. This proposal is within the RA-2 zone of the first ward redevelopment plan, requires site plan approval and bulk variances. Although we originally heard this application on June 23rd with 8 commissioners, 4 of those commissioners are no longer on the board. So we'll be hearing this application anew. So the revised plans are actually the present plans for this application. So I'm going to incorporate the portions of the previous review into the new review, if that's how I will proceed, Madam Chairwoman, with the
Yes.
review.
Okay, please proceed.
Property taxes are current. Persons having a 10% or greater ownership interest in 510 Oakland LLC are Kevin Curtin, 250 Madison Avenue, Paterson, New Jersey, and persons having a 10% or greater ownership interest in JTM Investment Group LLC, Charles Zangrielli, Michael Zangrielli, and Joseph Masterful, all providing an address of 97 Pointview Parkway, Wayne, New Jersey. Nelson Guzman Jr., 250 Madison Avenue, Paterson, New Jersey, is also a partner in this venture. GB Engineering LLC has prepared a survey dated December 19, 2019. The parcel is frontage of 124.49 feet on Coral Street, a rear lot line that measures 88.73 feet, a western sideline that measures 153.6 feet, and eastern side lot line that measures 191.69 feet. The lot is triangular shaped and has area of 17,952 square feet. A previous application on the parcel to subdivide the lot into 4 lots and construct a 2-family dwelling on each lot was approved in 2007, but never finalized nor constructed. The survey also indicates that there may be some rock outcropping throughout the site. The site varies in elevation from a low point of 113.79 feet in the extreme rear of the parcel to 148.43, a short distance from the existing 2.5-story frame dwelling located adjacent to the property to the east. The parcel is located on the northern side of Coral Street. Aside from a partial wood fence along the western side of the parcel, there's no evidence of previous construction on the parcel. Evans Architect has prepared a 5-page plan revised to July 22nd, 2020. The applicant proposed to construct a rental housing development of 23 units in a 3-story building. As indicated in sheet number S1, plan contains details of the sanitary sewer connection, the water connection, concrete vertical curb, and roadway widening, the seepage pit section, the tax map, a plan material list, a shrub tree planting detail, the zoning ordinance data, site notes, the grading and utility site plan, and the proposed site plan. The building proposes access from a 24-foot curb cut located on Coral Street for the 29 off-street proposed parking spaces. Light lighting is to be placed on the building facing the parking area and on poles along the eastern side of the parking lot. The note on the plan indicates that video security cameras are to be placed and connected to the city police department. As indicated on sheet number S2, soil erosion and control details and parking paver details are shown. The plan also indicates a 24-foot driveway aisle and parking spaces that are 9 feet in width and 19 feet in length. The open space area is indicated at the rear of the property. The applicant should advise if a superintendent will be living on the premises and should also advise as to whom would be responsible for moving the trash from each unit to the exterior, from the interior trash location to the curb. Landscaping be placed as indicated on the above referenced plans. Any landscaping within the front yard setback shall be kept to a maximum height of 30 inches in order to ensure adequate vehicular sight distance. If fencing is to be placed within the front yard setback, it shall be of the wrought iron variety and in accordance with the First Ward redevelopment plan. Sheet number S1. The proposed 3-story building has been revised to reflect decreased square footage, and the parking lot has been increased from the previous 24 spaces to the current 29 spaces. The previous location of the refuse area from fronting along Coral Street has been removed and relocated to the building's interior. A previous required variance for rear yard setback has been eliminated, as the original plans indicated a rear yard setback of 11.24 feet, whereas 20 feet was required, and the revised plans indicate a rear setback of 22.07 feet. The applicant has also reduced the number of proposed 2-bedroom dwelling units from the previous 14 2-bedroom units to now proposed 4 2-bedroom units, and increased the number of 1-bedroom units, which was previously 9 units, to the proposed 19 1-bedroom units. The reduction in the number of 2-bedroom residential units and the increase in the number of 1-bedroom units indicates that a parking variance is no longer requested. The 19 1-bedroom units each require 1 parking space per dwelling unit, and the 4 2-bedroom units each require 1.5 parking spaces each per dwelling unit, for a total of 6 parking spaces and a grand total of 24 required off-street parking spaces. As the applicant has now indicated 29 parking spaces off-street, including 8 that are in a tandem arrangement, a parking variance is no longer being requested. Sheet number A1. The floor plans for the building have been revised. The previous first floor plan has been revised to indicate an interior refuse and recycling room that was previously proposed on Coral Street. A fitness room is also now proposed on the first floor, as well as a tenant amenity area room of 665 square feet, and a storage room for tenants has also been added. The number of residential units on the first floor has also been reduced from the previous proposal of 3 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units, for a total of 5 first floor units, to the revised total of 3 1-bedroom units. The previous plan indicated that the second and third floor plans were identical in layout, and that each floor proposed 4 1-bedroom units and 5 2-bedroom units. The revised plan indicates 8 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units on each floor, for a grand total of 23 units, including the 3 first floor units that are 1-bedroom units. The revised plans indicate a total of 23 units, including 19 1-bedroom units and 4 2-bedroom units. The previous plan also proposed 23 units, but the previous unit count was 11 1-bedroom units and 12 2-bedroom units. The zoning characteristics table has been revised to indicate the proposed revisions. Any adopted resolution for this proposal shall incorporate the relevant information read into the record at the planning board meeting held on June 8, 2020. The above changes based on the revised plans dated July 14, 2020, and any testimony received at the planning board meeting held on August 12, 2020, that the planning board commissioners and the applicant agreed to. On August 11, 2020, a 4-page traffic and parking assessment report attached was received by the Planning and Zoning Division. At the August 12, 2020 Planning Board meeting, the applicant requested a continuation of the application in order for the commissioners to review this document. Drainage calculations and plans have been sent to the city engineer for review and approval. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant and/or the preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. This proposal is in the Totowa West section of the city. The surrounding area is mainly residential and composed of 2-family dwellings on lot sizes of 2,500 square feet and greater. A Paterson Public Elementary School is located on the northeast corner of Coral Street and Union Avenue. That is the staff, In conclusion, the applicant has not provided an estimated cost of this proposal. That is your staff review for this proposal, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Flynn, would you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I would like to call Matt Evans as my first witness. Mr. Evans, you appeared as an expert before the board, correct?
He'll raise his right hand.
Yeah, all right.
Wait, where's?
Hold on.
Okay, there you go.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record.
Matthew Evans, architect planner, 470 Chamberlain Ave, Paterson, New Jersey.
We accept Mr. Evans as an expert witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, you prepared the plans that have been submitted, correct?
Yes.
And you heard Mr. Deutsch's review?
Yes.
He's giving an overview of the project.
Okay, I'll basically start from scratch. I agree with Mr. Deutsch's report. What we've done is we have 23 apartments, 3-story building, similar to what we proposed previously. We've modified that to have a variance-free application. We have reduced the bedroom count. We have 4 2-bedroom apartments, and we have, I'll go through it, we have, the remainder would be 19, was 1-bedroom apartments. We have, all our refuse area would be enclosed in a refuse room adjacent to the front, and it has access to the front and Coral Street. We have added a fitness room for the tenants, and we also have a majority of the parking would be under the second floor of the building, so it'd be protected in a carport style design, and then we have the remainder of the parking, surface parking to the right of the structure. The first floor has the rear amenity space, and we have the apartments, 3 1-bedroom apartments on the front, on the first floor. We go to the second floor, and we have basically the corridor is goes down the central corridor from the front to the back with the stair, egress stair in the front, egress stair in the rear. And we have the apartments on basically flanking each side of that corridor. So they're predominantly 1-bedrooms. We have 2 bedrooms to the left side of it, and the remainder would be 1-bedrooms. And they're similar in nature. They all meet the minimum requirement for square feet. And this rear apartment would have a terrace amenity area for that. There's a janitor closet to the rear, and that would be similar for the second and third floor. All the apartments have their own independent mechanical and utilities, and they also have their own laundry room for each of the apartments. Going to the next page, we show the elevations. Basically, we have, this would be the front elevation, Coral Street. We have a mix of materials. We have stucco, brick, and aluminum. It's a coated aluminum wood siding, architectural design with the canopy, which is the main entrance to the Coral Street apartments. Then we have showing the two-way driveway and parking to the right. We have a decorative cedar fence enclosure along the front along Coral Street. Looking at the right side elevation, we have similar materials. As you can see, the cars would park under the building in a protected area. And also we have balconies on some of these apartments, and we've broken up the facade, giving it more of an aesthetic appeal even on the side. And also on the left side elevation, we show the entry to the side and then the amenity space to the rear of the left side elevation. Also, we have the rear elevation, which has the stair tower, the balconies, and landscaping similar to the front elevation. So that's predominantly the extent of the architectural. We took into consideration the concerns of the board members' previous submission, where we did have garbage area, which was adjacent to the neighbor. We relocated that. We have landscaped area there, and we've enclosed it, and we have access to the street from there, and made those modifications, added more amenity space, and reduced the variance. There was a rear yard setback variance. We reduced that, the parking variance, and I believe that this is a better presentation, application than what we previously proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Okay, that concludes your testimony, Matt?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so at this time, I'm going to open up questions to the public, but it's based on Mr. Evans. Your questions must go to Mr. Evans's testimony. If you have a question for Mr. Evans, please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. If you have any comments, just a comment, please save them all for the end. You'll have time to speak at the end for your comments, but right now it's for questions of Mr. Evans' testimony. Thank you. I'll give it 2 minutes for a call-in, 3 minutes for a question.
Commissioners and staff and Chairman Norton, we have a first caller, Mary Ann Wilson.
Yes.
Connected shortly. Thank you very much for your patience. We seem to have lost our first caller, but we do have Lisette Pabon, Pabon, on the line. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
They're asking to call back in. There's a little delay. I apologize. Chairwoman Northrop, we do have Lisette Pabon on the line. Mrs. Pabon, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
Chairwoman Northrop, we do have Lisette Pabon on the line. Mrs. Pabon, are you there?
Okay, I can't hear Miss Pabon.
Mrs. Pabon, excuse me, Mrs. Pabon, please listen to me. Can you mute your television? Lower your volume on your television, please.
Got you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so, Mr. Bone, could you please state your name and your address for the record?
It's Lisette. It's 95 Court Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 0752.
And you spell your last name T-A-B-O-N?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Your question is for the architect? Is the question?
A general question.
No, this right now, well, we'll ask the question and we'll see if the architect can answer it. If not, you may have to stay on the line until we can get someone to answer your question. But right now, the questions are only for the architect. So what is your general question?
Oh, it's regarding the park. I understand that it's been revised.
Yes. Okay. I think, Madam Secretary, I think we lost Mr. Bone.
Are you there, Mrs. Pabon?
Yeah.
She's still here.
Okay, well, I don't know. What's the question?
I have muted another person. I think that was the interruption. Please proceed.
Okay, please ask your question about the parking.
Yeah. The question is, there's so many vehicles at this moment, and how are we going to be able to have a building this structure with all these although he says we have the assigned parkings, what are we gonna do with the extras? I mean, just the surroundings around this property is 34 vehicles right now without this property being constructed.
Okay, I'm not certain.
We have,
I'm just sorry, I hear your question, but I'm not certain. Mr. Evans, you can't answer this question, can you? Mr.
Yeah,
Evans?
I don't understand the.
Okay, what I think what she's saying is she understands that the parking has been revised, and now all the cars are gonna fit where they should, but what are they gonna do with the overflow of parking?
This is all taken into consideration, with the zoning ordinance and the, first ward redevelopment plan. So, I believe the traffic engineer will be able to, speak about, the parking requirement and how we meet that, and other issues.
Okay. So Mr. Bone, you're gonna have to stay on the line then and wait for our traffic expert to come on, give his testimony, and you can ask that question of him, okay?
okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Madam Secretary, is there anyone else from the public?
No, the other woman, Mrs. Marianne Wilson, will, have some questions for someone else.
Okay.
Proceed without her, thank you. And in the meantime, Mrs. Pabon, I'd like you to disconnect, because I'm gonna put you on another line, if that's okay with you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna move on to the commissioners. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions of Mr. Evans? Okay, commissioners?
Commissioner Udine.
Yes, Commissioner Udine?
Chairwoman, I think I have received the wrong details of the plan. That's why just some question for clarification. So how many spaces are?
Hold on, Mr. Udine. Hold on, Commissioner Udine. Hold on, please. I hear somebody.
One moment, everyone, I just got a new caller, I'm trying to work with this, so, give me 30 seconds.
Uh-huh. Commissioner Eugene.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask the chairwoman, Marianne William is now on the line. Is there any questions that she may have? Do you, Mrs. Williams, the architect?
No, I'm waiting for the public portion.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm gonna disconnect you. I'm gonna speak to you on my cell phone. Is that okay? And I'll put you on later on. Thank you. You may proceed, chairwoman.
Okay, so like, Commissioner Udine, okay, you're saying you don't have the proper paperwork in front of you? You didn't get it?
I believe so, yeah, I got wrong details, I would say, different details than what, we went through, but just, I understood everything, I took notes, so it's okay.
Okay, all right, so your question for Mr. Evans?
Yes, some quick questions, so, just to clarify, there is no variance as requested, am I correct?
Yes, we reduced it to a zero, variance application, so it'll be site plan approval.
Got it. And just another question, how many parking spaces are required, and how many provided? You share with us.
So what we'll do is we'll go down here to the zoning, chart, and basically we have, one bedroom or a studio requires one space, 19, would be 19 spaces. 2 bedrooms requires 1.5 spaces. We have 4 of those, so that's 6 spaces. So we require 25 parking spaces. We have 29, so that's a surplus of 4 spaces on this application.
But I also, can I just add one thing? I just want to add one thing. There are no variances, Commissioner Udine, on this particular application. The minimum requirements are 25, they have 29 spaces.
Perfect, thank you, Chairwoman, thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
Okay, so, any other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Evans? Okay, hearing none, okay, then, Mr. Guzman, we can move on, please.
Thank you. I'd like to, call John Korak.
Good evening.
And he is?
Our parking and, traffic expert.
Okay, fine. And his name is, I'm sorry.
John R. Korak, C-O-R-A-K.
Okay, he has to be sworn in.
Okay, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Certainly, John Korak, C-O-R-A-K, with Stonefield Engineering and Design, 92 Park Avenue, Rutherford, New Jersey.
We will accept him as an expert witness. I know you have appeared before us before.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Korak, do you have an opportunity to prepare a report for the property known as 9092 Coral Street?
Yes, I did.
And could you please give an overview of your report as it pertains to the property?
Certainly. Our report started with an examination of the site location. It's situated as a mid-block parcel on the northerly side of Coral Street. Coral Street being a one-way roadway, one lane of travel with parking on either side, extending from Union Avenue to Woodruff Place, and then to leave the small pocket of the neighborhood to go out to Marion Street and then onto Totowa Avenue. As I just mentioned, parking's allowed on both sides of the street, but as I heard at the previous hearing, and even a little bit in the public questioning today, and also, of course, through our own observations on street, typically many or most of the on-street parking spaces are occupied, both by residents and by staff of the adjacent school. Transit facilities in the area, the site's well connected by transit. We're about a 3-minute walk to the bus stop at West Broadway and Union, serving the 748, and it's about a 3 to 4 minute walk to West Broadway and Totowa, where there's also the 703 bus, which runs with very frequent headways. And the site's also a less than 15-minute walk into downtown and to the Broadway bus terminal. So again, very well connected to transit facilities in the area, which plays a role in this type of development and what is trying to be achieved, in my opinion, from a traffic and parking standpoint in the first ward with the redevelopment plan. Getting into the site itself, as Mr. Evans mentioned, there are still 23 units, but we've switched the bedroom mix around to be 19 one-bedrooms and 4 two-bedrooms. We do have one driveway out to Coral Street with compliant 24-foot wide drive aisles, and again, 29 parking spaces where 25 are required, so we're compliant with the redevelopment plan's parking requirement for the site. Our study also included an analysis of the traffic generated by the site. We did so using the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. This is the industry standard for forecasting traffic by private developments. It's used throughout the country. It's used by the NJDOT. And as a whole, residential developments are very low trip generators. So not a lot of traffic on a peak hour basis compared to, say, commercial use or retail use, that sort of use. Based on that data collected by traffic engineers and published within this manual, we're looking at, for a 23-unit building, about 8 to 10 trips to and from the site during that peak hour, which at about 1 car per 6 minutes is practically imperceptible to anyone on the roadway. It will not have any material impact to the roadway operations, the roadway levels of service or conditions, and the IT actually uses a threshold of 100 peak hour trips, where we're at a tenth of that at just 10 peak hour trips for the development. So again, no significant adverse impacts to the surrounding roadway network. Parking, touched on it, that we're complying with the redevelopment plan. 1 space per 1-bedroom apartment, 1.5 space per 2-bedroom apartments, which comes out to 25 required, where we have 29 proposed, or 4 spaces over the requirement. And we've reviewed a number of parking demand and vehicular ownership statistics for this area and this part of Paterson and this type of building. And in this area, there is a vehicle ownership rate amongst rental units that is less than one vehicle per unit, whereas our development is providing a parking supply that is greater than one space per unit, and really sufficient to accommodate the full parking demand of the site without needing to use any on-street parking. Understanding here that on-street parking is a concern, especially to the residents in the area, as many of their residences do not have driveways, do not have off-street parking, whereas we provide the full complement of off-street parking. The full 29 spaces where 25 are required. So overall, based on all of these factors, characteristics, the proposed development will not have a significant traffic or parking impact to the surrounding roadway network. And I'd be happy to answer any questions related to those traffic and parking impacts.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If anyone has any questions, Mr. Korak, based solely on his testimony, again, you'll have time at the end to make your comments if that's all you'd like to make. But at this time, the questions go to Mr. Korak, and the number is 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll allow 2 minutes for a call-in and 3 minutes for your question. Thank you.
Mary Ann Williams and Lisette Pabon, please call in. We will connect you to the actual meeting, and we can proceed with this meeting. Thank you very much.
So, wait, Madam Secretary, are we waiting for a call-in, for a question?
Yes, because I want to connect them to the main line. I had to disconnect them to come back here.
Okay.
So, with all your patience, I appreciate it. Other than this, we have no other callers.
Okay, thank
One of the callers would like to ask a question, the other one wants to wait for the public portion.
Yep, okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Mrs. Lisette Pabon, are you there?
Yes.
Do you have any questions of the expert that just spoke a few minutes ago? Madam Chair, can you guide her, please?
Yes, we had Mr. Korak, okay, who was a traffic expert. Did you want to speak to him?
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Korak? Ask your question, please.
Yeah, so he says he has information, I guess, from the census, according to the number of vehicles owned by people in the surrounding areas of 90-92 property. I don't know what information he has or where he got it from, but I've been living here for 2.5 years, and I can name every household that has more than 3 or 4 vehicles on this property. So this building situation is going to present a big problem for us.
I know, but I'm just going to ask you. Let me get Mr. Korak to answer your question about the census. I think what they've all been what the testimony was is that most of this project has been scaled down to a 1-bedroom unit. Most of those people are going to have 1 car. They've supplied more than the sufficient amount of spaces that they need. But I will let him answer that question. Mr. Korak, are you there?
Yes, so our data comes from the U.S. Census Bureau through their American Community Survey, which takes a detailed look by census tract of the parking characteristics. It's one of the many things that they look at, but the vehicle ownership characteristics of the residences in the census tract. So, with respect to where our data came from, it comes from this source, this legitimate source of information on vehicle ownership, and that information tells us that on average across the tract, that the parking demand is less than one vehicle per unit. Here are sites providing more than enough parking by providing more than one space per unit, and with such a high number of one-bedroom units, the parking demand is expected to be completely accommodated on site, and we're providing a compliant parking supply, and that's what the first ward redevelopment plan contemplates, is really based on the characteristics of this area, the transit connectivity, the walkability.
Okay, I understand that part, but here's the thing. So the building structure is going to be in front. They're going to eliminate the affordability of parking on that site, correct?
In terms, I don't think I understand the question. There's...
Okay, so right now there's parking, there's vehicles parked right in front. Because there's nothing there on that land.
But that has nothing to do with the parking, the building that they're planning on putting up. The building that they plan on putting up is gonna have all the parking underneath the building.
Right, so the building they're putting up, no one will be able to park after that in front of the building, because then they're gonna have, the people occupying the building are going to need the access of coming in and out of that property, correct?
Sure, so there is a driveway on the site to facilitate access to and from the site, and under the existing condition, the entire frontage does provide space for on-street parking, so understanding the concern that there is a possibility that essentially one parking space would be lost from the on-street supply. But I do note that there are many different opportunities on how to redevelop this parcel, including multiple curb cuts, multiple different driveway access points. And for this development, to basically provide just a single access point, we're keeping as much on-street parking as possible, while still being able to afford the amount of parking and access as necessary for this development.
So in essence, you're only moving the one spot, correct?
Right, there's just a spot right in front, right where the curb cut is, and the remaining spaces in front of the property are available to the residents as they always have been. Our parking supply is accommodated entirely on the site.
Okay, Mr. Bone, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll have other testimony. If you have any other questions, please call back in.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, Madam Secretary, do we have anyone else from the public that wants to talk to Mr. Korak?
Excuse me, I heard that. Please be patient with me. Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know who's comments, but they shouldn't in any event. I'm gonna move it over now to the commissioners. Commissioners, does any commissioner have any questions of Mr. Korak based on his testimony? Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna ask Mr. Guzman to move forward with the next witness, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I would like to call George Williams.
And where is he? I know you're there, but I don't see him. Okay, well anyway, you'll raise your hand.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I most certainly do.
State your full name for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Long time no see. My name is George Weedle Williams with the Issuing Group, located at 105 Grove Street, Suite number 1 in Montclair, New Jersey. Good evening, Ms. Lopez.
Good evening.
We accept Mr. Williams as an expert witness. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, you've had an opportunity to review the plans and hear Mr. Deutsch's review, correct?
That is correct.
And can you please give an overview of the project?
Certainly. Files loading for the share. Give me 1 second. So thank you, Mr. Guzman. Thank you again, commissioners. Good to be here again. This is a particularly unique circumstance for me because I will be representing a fully compliant land use application for the first time in my entire career. So this is a nice experience. For the record, this is property commonly known as 90-92 Coral Street, identified in the municipal tax records as block 608, lot 26. As mentioned by your board planner, it is located in the First Ward redevelopment area in the RA2 residential district, and the intent of the RA2 district, to repeat what Mr. Deutsch mentioned, is, and I quote, to permit a more intense residential use of land with various types of dwellings. I won't go through the project specifics because I think Matt Evans did a great job of doing that. I would just highlight that there are several amenities for this proposed development, such as the fitness rooms, the balconies, the open space, and everything else that Matt Evans testified to. In terms of the release, again, a very unique circumstance where a site plan application is being submitted properly to the planning board, but in this case, without any variances being sought. I would just add a quick editorial and say that this is the second application in a week for me where the applicant revised their plans to perfect a site plan application based on the input from the board and the community. And in my professional opinion, that does not happen enough. And when it does, it usually results in a product that is good for both the applicant and the community. So kudos to the applicant for doing so, and thank you to the board for allowing us this opportunity to resubmit. The redevelopment plan for this area, as you all know, is designed to address the conditions of what we now call in need of redevelopment. But those conditions, as you know, are things like vacant properties like this one, which, by the way, is strewn with trash, overgrown with vegetation. Properties or buildings that are in poor or dilapidated condition, tax arrearages, indices of crime, et cetera, et cetera. And the redevelopment planning process is designed 100% to redress those conditions of, again, what we used to call blight, and provide incentives for developers and investment in those areas. You've heard me say this before, Paterson is one of the few cities I've worked in where redevelopment plans perform the way they are theoretically intended to do. So, and that is by, you see developer after developer coming to Paterson and trying to block by block, lot by lot, change those conditions of blight. So just very quickly, the redevelopment plan suggests for First Ward as a goal, provide quality new housing and reduce the blighting impacts of abandoned and vacant properties. My opinion is if you were to grant this application, you would advance that goal and objective. Your master plan mirrors or echoes the goals and objectives of your redevelopment plan. Housing goal number 1 is to provide for a variety of housing types that will attract and retain a mix of residents from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds. Housing goal number 1B, meet the demand for multifamily housing. Housing objective 3C, promote infill housing development on vacant properties. And this, of course, is spot on with what is before you this evening. And finally, land use goal number 2, address the problems associated with vacant and abandoned properties. Again, and with what's before you this evening. With that, what I would like to do is just look at the exhibit. I believe you have to mark it. It is a typical Nishwain Group storybook exhibit, using some images grabbed from your local land use documents, and the remainder are images taken by I and my staff. Mr. Rocca, do we have to mark that, or Ms. Lopez?
We could mark this as A1.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you on this side.
Linda, did you get that A1, ma'am?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
I'll be very brief because, again, there are no variances. I think, I hope that this exhibit will merely add some context to what you've heard from the prior witnesses. Certainly, Matt Evans talking about the building design and site layout, which is quite creative. And Mr. Korak going through the parking and traffic circulation in this area and on this site. I know you know the area well, but again, just context and I should be able to conclude. The first image, slide number 2, is an aerial map showing the property in question with a bold yellow border. And you see immediately it is a uniquely shaped lot, and it is also a uniquely sized lot in this particular area. What you'll see in a later photo is it also has a very unique topography, and I think Matt Evans touched on that. It actually drops off at a cliff at the rear of the property. If you look, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but at the corner of Union and Coral is a school building that Mr. Korak referred to, and across the street is a mixed-use commercial residential development. When you see the pictures that are following, you'll note that the land development pattern in this section of the First Ward redevelopment area has many of the indices referenced in the redevelopment plan that need to be addressed. You'll also know that there's a changing land development pattern. You have rather of housing types, and of course the commercial on the corner of Union and Coral. The next picture, just a capture of the zoning map from the redevelopment area, again corroborating what Mr. Deutsch mentioned, and you heard from Matt Evans that we are clearly in the First Ward redevelopment area in the RA2 district. The next slide, we begin walking from Union Avenue up Coral towards the property site, and this is of course the school at one end of the intersection of Coral and Union. I think Mr. Korak mentioned that some of the staff from that school may park on Coral as well. Across the street, also at the intersection of Coral and Union, is the mixed-use building I mentioned with the several residential units on the upper floors and commercial on the ground floor. Slide number 6 takes us further up Coral to 112 Coral, one of the several examples of multifamily housing on the street. They do have some on-site parking. Very quickly, you'll note some of the rock outcrop, which makes this section of Coral very unique in terms of topography. Slide number 7 shows 111 Coral Street, which is a very narrow lot. It looks to be an evidence of investment for a rehab. At least that's our hope. And on either side of that building, you have properties that are in fair condition. The lots are not necessarily well kept, but the buildings seem to be in relatively fair condition. Going further up the street, the opposite side again, we're going back and forth. 108 Coral, another example of a multifamily development on the street. It also provides some on-site parking. The houses previously shown did not provide any on-site parking. Slide number 9, again, getting closer to the properties, we traverse up the street towards 90 Coral. Now you're at 9395. Housing stock that looks to be in fair condition, but not providing any on-site parking. Again, these are a mix of multi and two-family. when you get to slide number 10, this is an aerial photograph of the subject site. You can see, if you look closely, a lot of trash strewn throughout the site, overgrown with some undergrowth, and then a dense tree line at the rear of the property. The property is, as you can see, does have on-street parking in front of it, and I think Mr. Korak, I know Mr. Korak addressed the question earlier about the loss of a on-street parking option once we, if approved, we have the curb cut. But again, the trade-off here is that that property will be developed hopefully one way or another if we are to advance the redevelopment plan, and there would have to be a curb cut if we are to address the parking requirements for the redevelopment area. So one way or another, parking, on-street parking space would be lost. I praise the design team for minimizing that loss by only using one driveway. Another perspective of the property to the rear, and it's not really captured well here, but if you look at where the cursor is, that's the rock outcropping. That's got to be like a 15 to 20 foot drop to the property below. So all I have to say, it's an extremely unique property, got a lot of challenges. The design team took great pain to figure out a way to design the site so that the broadest side of the property is inside or interior of the lot, and when you're looking at the property from Coral Street, you see the narrowest most part of the property, so it doesn't appear to have a very large massive. And that concludes the exhibit. Very quickly, the municipal land use law does require site plan approval for development in the redevelopment area. When there are no variances, obviously I'm not required to provide proofs because there's nothing to prove. The focus of the board deliberation, as you know, is typically on, does the proposed site plan meet the standards for the model site plan and subdivision code and the local redevelopment plan. So in that context, I would submit to the board that they could comfortably grant this application in as much as it meets the intent and purpose of your redevelopment plan, it advances the goals and objectives of your master plan, and based on the testimony of Matt Evans and Mr. Korak, also meets the site plan standards. And that would conclude my testimony. Thank you, commissioners. And that may be the briefest I've ever been.
Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public. If anyone from the public has any questions of Mr. Williams, and again, it's based solely on his testimony. You can save your comments for the end, but right now, it's questions of Mr. Williams only. You can call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-in, 3 minutes for your questions. Thank you.
Chairwoman Northrop, I do have a caller that is on the line. It is Mary Ann Williams.
Wait a minute, but she had comments. I'm not ready for the comments yet. Is this a question for Mr. Williams?
I'll check it out, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have no callers at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Mr. Williams? Commissioners? Okay. Commissioners? I thought I heard someone.
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Ceballos, please, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. To make clear, it only requires site plan approval and the engineer and the HEP. No variance is needed here, no?
Commissioner, that's absolutely correct. Because the applicant chose to incorporate the input of both the board and the community, they revised their plans to eliminate all variance. So now the sole focus is on the site plan itself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any other commissioners? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Guzman, is this your last witness?
Yes, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, then before we conclude, I just want to open it up now. If anyone has any comments that they'd like to make regarding this project, okay, you can make them now by calling in to 973-321-1579. Meeting ID number 711-680-0071. I'll give it 2 minutes for call-in, and I'll give it 5 minutes for comments. 5 minutes only.
As we proceed, would you like me to connect you to our last public portion with Mary Williams?
Yes, please.
As we wait the other callers, thank you. Mrs. Williams, are you there, ma'am? Mrs. Williams, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to make your last comments, Chairwoman Northrup?
Yes, I would like to ask her to please state her name and address for the record. Ms. Williams? Yes.
Hi, my name is Marianne Williams, and I reside at 89-91 Coral Street in Paterson, directly in front of the project that's proposed tonight.
Okay.
I have been a homeowner at this location for 23 years. This project will affect the quality of life for the residents in this area. I was home when the engineer came to conduct his traffic study using his drone. And several of the residents witnessed it. But what he did not capture was the peak hours. He came in the evening after the fact that everyone was already home. What he did not capture was our day-to-day struggle with parking and our day-to-day struggle with exiting our block. I would like to know how many commissioners are really familiar with Coral Street exactly, which is only 1 block in length. And when exiting Coral Street, you must merge with the traffic from Woodrow Place, then merge with traffic from Marion Street before you have to legally have an outlet to go onto Solar Ave. The proposed site is directly in front of my property. It was previously stated that the property is made of some rock. The word some is an understatement. Again, how many of you have visited this site? The previous owners who were originally approved for two-family units told me themselves that it was all rock, and they had to stop construction because of the rock that was on the property. I have a major concern with the construction part. I am concerned with it disturbing my foundation of my property when they start chiseling away at 100 feet of rock and the impact that it will have on my foundation of my house. There's no guarantee that it will not disturb my property or the property that is adjacent to it. And by the way, the property owner that is adjacent to this property in question, they are new owners of that property since about 3 months ago. and they are not even aware of this meeting tonight because they are new owners. I want to express another.
Can I just ask you, excuse me, somebody's either TV is on, must turn it down because it's interfering, I can't hear. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Williams still there?
I want to express another serious concern because once again, the engineer study doesn't show the many times the resident on this block is forced to drive facing oncoming traffic when the paramedic or the fire truck or the police officer shows up on this block. We are forced to face oncoming traffic to return to our homes or when coming home when the fire trucks or EMTs are dispatched on our block. And to include an additional 23 more families to what is already dangerous would definitely be creating a death trap for the residents of Coral Street. We have a school on the corner, a multi-unit complex next to that, and about a 6-family next to that. Just how many people are you trying to squeeze on a one block with no direct outlet? Upon exiting Marion Street, we have to come to another stop because there's a mom there with the school, and we have to fight traffic after coming to a stop to wait for the kids to come out. I am asking and pleading with the board tonight to put yourself in our shoes. I am by my house to have to fight for quality of life. I am by my house to have to fight for the increase of wildlife that uptakes in this area. I didn't buy my house to have the developers come in and just destroy our community. And I know that they are just about dollars and cents and building neighborhoods, but we are a community here, and we look out for one another. And at the end of the day, the developer just wants their money and walk away, but they are destroying the quality of life that we built here in the city of Paterson. Like I said, I've been here for 23 years. When is enough enough? When are we going to put the city of Paterson residents' safety above everything else? When are we going to look at the safety as a priority for some of us? I don't think that this is fair. Why can't we come to an agreement? Why do it have to be so many units? We already have multiple at the beginning of our block. Why do we have to have so many in the middle of our block, making it so chaotic when something happens just to exit our block? I don't think it's fair. We need to go back to the drawing board and come up with a solution that is better and a safe, more safe environment for all. And I don't think that we should approve 23 units. I'm not totally against redevelopment by all means. I do believe the city should move forward with redevelopment, but on one block that we have so many people, this is ridiculous. There is no straight outlet on this block. You just can't come onto Coral Street and come in one way and leave out the other. As you notice in the pictures, that part was not shared. He only shared the entrance. That part of exiting Coral Street was not shared with you guys. If you have not come down Coral Street, I beg you tonight, please table this item and visit our block. I am begging you tonight, and come and look at what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I am going to turn this over to Mr. Guzman. Would you like to summarize?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think that the testimony of all the experts has hit on all of the key points for this application. As testified to by Mr. Evans and Mr. Williams, this application is entirely in step with the Forest Ward redevelopment plan. This is the exact project that the city of Paterson was looking for when the redevelopment plan was processed and approved. And it's entirely in step with that plan. I would also echo the comments of Mr. Korak, who had testified regarding the traffic and the parking. No other scientific evidence has been brought in to challenge the information that Mr. Korak has provided for the board's record. So, for all those reasons, I request that this application be accepted and approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may, I do have one caller who just called in with final comments from the public. Her name is Lisette Pabon. Mrs. Lisette, are you there? Mrs. Pabon.
Yes, I am.
Chairwoman Northrop?
Yes. Your comments, please?
Yeah, so I wanted to piggyback on Mrs. Williams' comment and add that briefly, so homeowners at home 80, two cars, the house on 83, 2 cars, house on 93, 3 cars, house on 94, 4 vehicles, 96, 4 vehicles, 97, 4 vehicles, 99, 5 vehicles, 103, 3 vehicles, 101, 3 vehicles. That's a total of 34 vehicles in the surrounding area of this project only, all going in one direction. We have problems with double parking, and not just saying the least that, okay, they're developing a building, they're going to have their spaces in their parking. However, then what about the excess people that will come to live there? There's normally 2 vehicles to a household, and not only that, I lost my train of thought, but it does present a problem. We are dealing with a lot of challenges. I said before, the census are incorrect. If you come here and you go through house to house, we even have pictures and videos to show you what goes on here. I mean, it's not that we are opposing any type of construction. We're opposing this huge construction that will bring a havoc, to this small little street. And none of you are living next to one of these. So you don't even know what it feels like to live next to something like this. This is the ongoing problem that we already have. Now, they did show the Union Avenue. Those people from Union Avenue come up here to park. And we have videos and pictures to prove where they park their vehicles. So we are dealing with a really overloaded, congested parking situation, and a large amount of people because of the 2 already complexes that are down the street. Like it was stated before, what are you going to do to us? You're going to create more of a problem and a hazard for citizens, the residents of Paterson, New Jersey, and we should be all working together with the interest of not only the homeowners, but also the people that already live here, who've been living here for years. Those are my comments. I mean, I know that, again, it's all for the investors. They have an interest, but, it should be reduced somehow. They should really rethink this project. We didn't have more people. We've already signed, we've already petitioned, we already will oppose this project, and it seems like it doesn't matter. So, we're really asking you to consider.
Would you like to make any other comment? Oh, okay, all right. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair, before we go into
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd like to call Matt Evans back because I think he's the one I'd like to ask the question to about the foundation and the blasting of that property. Whoever, the site planner, whoever can tell me how they plan to remove that rock without causing any problem to the 2 subside. Are they blasting? I need to know that because I haven't heard that.
Okay.
And I know this formation, I've been up there, I've sold on Coral Street, and I know how congested. I'm not worried about the park, because I do know that it's gonna be a hardship on the neighbors. But my concern is gonna be, is it safe to be blasting up there? And how is it gonna affect those houses right adjacent to that property?
Okay, the property in question has, a rock outcropping, which would be, basically would be, removed in a similar way if you've driven up West Broadway to see the other, site, which is right below this on West Broadway, where, the owner had just basically chiseled the rock away. It's friable, so it can, be broken up, fairly easy with a machine, so there would be no need for, blasting. They didn't blast below. We did projects on Arlington Street and, areas in the neighborhood, and they've just been chiseled away, chiseled the rock away, so,
Okay, so they have, they have this machine that actually does that, like one of those winding down machines into the rock and just
it's like a pneumatic, it's like a big, it has a big, hammerhead on it, and it just chisels, it just bangs at the rock until it breaks apart, and then they haul it away with a dump truck.
Okay, so that's not gonna affect, that's not gonna affect the foundations on either side of this property?
No, it shouldn't, and, what they normally do is, to, basically ensure that, there would be no damage to the houses next door. They would do an assessment of the houses prior to the work to be done at the site, and this way, we don't have any surprises later on, with cracking or anything in the foundations or in the sheetrock of the houses next door, so that would be, that would definitely benefit the, developer and the neighborhood.
Good. So my next question to you is based on what the objectives is asking about. I don't guess there's no way you would want to do any less than you're doing now, the 23. I guess you looked it over when you came before us before. So there'd be no way that you would even be interested in reducing them, say, to maybe 20 units.
Well, the site, as you know, has a lot of natural, obstacles to it, and it's going to create a lot of, expense in leveling it, filling it in, and other things. We're not seeking a variance for, units, and I'd just like to reiterate that we have a surplus of 4 extra parking spaces on this site. So I don't believe I've had any applications with a surplus of parking.
No. I think the problem with the objectors is because I know Coral Street, like I said, I sell up there, but I think the problem is this particular site, some of the neighbors park there. They actually park on this vacant land. And so what they're saying is that they're no longer gonna have that as a parking space. This thing is, so it's not theirs, but they park there now, in some cases, and that's what I think they're thinking that parking is being taken away from them.
Yeah,
but it's not theirs, so, okay, here's my question. Pardon me?
We would just be losing probably one parking space.
Right, right, okay. Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
Yeah, and I too understand, I can sympathize with them. I mean, I live in a very congested area over here. There's like 3 large apartment complexes, and the parking, especially where I live, and the one that I live in, is very, very sparse. We don't have that many parking spaces, not enough to handle all the cars, and it is an inconvenience. And we lost our parking across the street when they put up the nursing home next door. It's the nursing facility, so the rehab facility. So I can sympathize with them, but with that being said, doesn't matter. I sympathize with them, but we need to move on. So at this time, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say? Okay, so at
Madam
this,
Chair, Madam
yes,
Chair,
Commissioner Ceballos, yes.
yes, the same question is for Commissioner Brooks to Matt. If you feel that the way they're going to do the excavation is not going to affect the foundation at either house on the side, what is your projection, your thinking, or anything that you can tell us it will affect the houses across the street in any way, shape, or form?
No, it would not negatively impact, the surrounding area. All these houses are also built on rock, so they're basically, the most stable foundations you're gonna have in the area. There's no, there's no mud, there's no, silt or anything. It's all basically bedrock there.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that being said then, and Mr. Guzman already, summarized for us, then we went into this, so I'm just gonna ask if, is there any, commissioner that would like to make a motion on this particular project? Commissioners?
Commissioner Dean.
Yes, yes, Commissioner Dean.
On the application of 510 Open LLC and J10, am I good to go?
Yes, you are good to go, please.
Okay, sorry. On the application of 510 Open LLC and J10 Investors Group, 250 Madison Avenue, New Jersey, 07524, property address 90-92 Pearl Street, block 608, lot 28, 23.
Lot 26.
26, my bad, yes, 26. I move that the board attorney prepare a solution granting no variances requested, subject to city engineer approval, to be considered to the board's earliest opportunity.
And pending approval, bulk variances and HEP soil conservation.
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
There's no bulk variances.
No, there isn't, you're right.
There is no variances
No,
requested.
sorry, you're right, there isn't. I'm reading the wrong application, of course. Not the wrong application, I had the wrong application on this particular one. Okay, so there's no bulk variances. All right, do I have a second? I will make a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners, Commissioner Ahmed is absent, Commissioner Brooks. Commissioner Brooks. Commissioner Savalos.
Come back, Skip.
Thank you. Commissioner Savalos.
Is he there?
Commissioner Savalos, one moment. I muted just about as many as I could, but I will unmute. Mr. Savalos, you there, Commissioner?
Yes, yes I am.
Is your vote yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cleaves.
My vote is no.
Thank you. Commissioner Santana.
Abstain.
Commissioner Issa.
Yes.
Commissioner Udine.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
No.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Fisher.
No.
And Chairwoman Northup.
Yes.
The vote is 5 yes, 3 no, and 1 abstain. Mr. LaRocca, what is the vote, please?
It's an approval.
Thank you. This application has been granted this evening. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Joyce, do we have any other business this evening?
No, we do not.
Okay, our next meeting is when?
Monday, September 28th.
Please, September 28th, everyone. See you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
That was good.